speech title, 3 rounds, Toastmasters.
Stop staring at me. I know I'm good looking. Dear contest chair and my dear friends, these were the exact words that an 18-year-old Chaitanya used in the finals of the Mr. Fisher competition. I was trying my level best to prove to everyone that I was a hunk. And my performance was actually making my arch rival Krishna uncomfortable. Now, bumper question to all of you on a Sunday morning. Whom do you think won the Freshers contest? Anybody?
Krishna.
The surprise thing was, much to my dismay and shock, the contest ended up as a tie. I was presented with a rusted rotating shield, whereas Krishna got a brand new iPod. But what pained me even more than the result was the fact that each and every one of the people there was cheering for him. Each and every one of the people who was cheering for Krishna was my mortal enemy. But I channeled my hatred, and I understood one thing. If I have to prove my legitimacy as a Mr. Fresher, I needed to turn all of them towards me. This was my fight to prove that I was the Mr. Fresher. So, my fight begins round number 1. Many months after the Freshers competition, my college decided to host a cultural day. And I thought this was the best opportunity for me to wow the audience with my histrionics. So, I decided to enact a play, Oscar Wilde's play, and we rehearsed very well, and I used every opportunity to publicize the play. On the day of the performance, I expected a full house. Just as the show was about to begin, we filled the auditorium. We filled the auditorium of 500 people with 5 people. And there were 10 people on the stage. But as they say, the show must go on. And it went on. After the performance finished, I came down the dais, and the English professor rushed me, shook my hands, and he said, "Oscar Wilde would be proud of you." Sure, he's proud of me, but I'm not happy. I walked away in a dejected state of mind. The same evening, Krishna conducted a jukebox. It was a huge success. Result, Krishna won, Chaitanya 0. Round 2. A month after this dismal failure, opportunity once again came knocking on my door. I found out that there was an intercollegiate talent show, and I decided to take part in it. Because if I won the talent show, I'll be placed on a higher pedestal than Mr. Fresher. Then nobody can question my legitimacy as the Mr. Fresher. So I took part in the competition, reached the finals. On the day of the finals, I really wanted to be focused. But then I saw her, such an angel-like beauty. What a pretty girl. And I couldn't stop myself from staring at her. And even she was noticing the fact that a thin young man was looking at her. Yeah, in those days I was thin. But when the time for the performance came, I stepped up onto the dais. I noticed that she was sitting right in the front row. I just looked at her and lost my mind. And she looked at me and smiled. And as soon as she smiled, millions of light bulbs went off in my mind. I started flying in air. I started moving in a haphazard fashion. I didn't understand that the stage ended here. And I almost tripped, and I fell right at the feet of the judges. You would think that such a unique appeal would actually appease the judges, but they were not appeased. Instead, they actually disqualified me. And what was more devastating for me is that I found out that this girl, or this angel, was the girlfriend of Krishna. He actually came to pick her up at the end of the contest. Now this proves one thing. Love these days only happens when a clueless girl meets a worthless guy. Anyways, after 2 successive failures, which made Krishna 2 and me 0, I didn't have any other motivation left inside of me. Result, my exam results tanked. My father looked at the results, he called me and he said, "What's going on?" I told him the entire story. He then looked at me calmly and said, "Chaitanya, people who believe in their own abilities don't seek endorsement from others. Gandhi didn't fight for freedom because somebody promised him the title of the father of the nation. Swami Vivekananda didn't go to Parliament of Religions and give a soul-stirring speech because someone told him that they were going to make him rich. They did it because they believed in it. What do you believe in? Now, let's just say that you prove that you are the legitimate Mr. Fresher. Even after you prove that, what have you achieved? In my opinion, they will forget you once the new Mr. Fresher is crowned. They will forget you. The very people for whom you are fighting will forget you. There's a flaw in your thinking, my son. Change it before it's too late. These words from my father were like a bolt from the blue. They were a wake-up call for me. I started introspecting. I also started retrospecting. And I understood this. Yeah, gone are those days when people actually used to stand behind someone because they liked their values. Gone are those days when people used to actually spend some time to understand the other person. Today, you fall in love, not with the actual person, but you actually fall in love with the opinion you have about that person. Nobody has time for me, and nobody will remember me. The only person who might remember me is me myself. And if I am the only person who's remembering me, why am I only remembering my defeats and not my victories? If I put things into perspective, I actually won all the 3 rounds. Yes, there were 3 rounds if you also count the Freshers contest. I won the Freshers contest. But you could call it a judging error, or you could also call it partiality. Krishna ended up right beside me. That was not my fault. I also won the 2nd round, which was the cultural day. I adapted a very complex play, gave a fantastic soul-stirring performance. And I was also commended, I was also congratulated by an esteemed English professor. Anybody can organize a jukebox. Round 3. I also won the round 3. I mean, I went up to the finals of that contest, and even his girlfriend was looking at me, man. Come on. I won all the 3 rounds, whereas I was thinking I lost. This taught me one thing. Life is all about learning to lose to someone whom you should have beaten with one hand tied behind your back. These 3 rounds taught me not to take anything for granted. These 3 rounds taught me to appreciate what I have in life. And today I appreciate that. It took me 3 rounds and almost a year to get this. But for all of you wise people, I hope you get it much faster. Over to the Godless channel.